Welcome to Webster Now with your host, Garrett Wagner.
All right, folks, we're here with a special episode of Webster Now. It's springtime. We're here with Diana Davis. We're here at the lovely Coons Christmas Tree Farm because we're talking all about open space today, right?
Yep.
Springtime.
Birds are singing. The trees are getting green. We're thinking about green space.
You know, for me, one of my favorite times in Webster.
Yep.
Like watching it go from winter to like everything bust lively. Amazing. So I want to give you some updates on open space here in Webster. All right, we got a couple big things happening that you should know about. So first and foremost, Dana, in the past, the last time the town got open space through New York State grant, a private resident did it almost all himself.
Yep.
Great effort, but it was kind of separate.
Yep.
This time we just did, I'll let you tell us about it.
So we just applied for a grant called the two grants, New York State DEC Open Space Conservation Grant. And we applied for those two grants for two particular properties, this being one of them, the beloved Coons Christmas Tree Farm. And the goal is really to make a park in the center of Webster. It's also a wildlife refuge. It's a perfect location for it. We would connect it up to the 104 bike path, and everyone in this part of Webster can walk the beautiful trails that they have known for decades all year round.
And the benefit of that is we're using not taxpayer money,
Yep.
but state money
Exactly.
to come in here. The other property is the Holt Road Lumberyard right around the corner. Kind of same idea, you know, trying to provide more open space to Webster, not at the taxpayers' dollars. And the big thing that's exciting for me about this, you know, before the prior one was a private resident did it, which is great. This was now a joint effort between private resident who helped before, yourself,
Yep.
my role in the town board, and the town,
Yep.
all coming together. Chris Bilo, Parks and Rec,
Yep.
Maria Dorr, and the town grant liaison.
Yep.
Like,
Amazing.
it was great to see what we all coming together, and it was a learning curve for all of us to now work together for the first time.
Yeah.
But that's exciting for you, Webster, to kind of see, you know, because open space preservation is clearly something Webster cares about, right?
Yeah, I would say. I think that's the biggest issue right now in Webster. We want to see our green space preserved, and we want it to happen now.
And so speaking about green space preservation, there's some news recently. The town board just did a moratorium.
Yes.
All right, so moratorium, for those who don't know, is a town essentially pause on development. And Dan is our expert. Care to kind of explain to people why towns do a moratorium and what it's meant to do?
Yeah, so moratoriums are a common tool that towns use in adjacent to their comprehensive plan update, which is Webster's currently doing a comprehensive plan update. And it basically aligns the town code with what's happening in the comprehensive plan. It gives the town the opportunity to implement those initiatives from the comprehensive plan into the code itself so that it isn't just an empty document. And the moratorium enables that because it stops new development from coming in, which wouldn't be commensurate to the initiatives being put forward in the comprehensive plan.
And that's really the goal, is to align those two. Okay,
Yep.
part of our plan, we've identified these areas or zoning characteristics we want to make changes to.
Yep.
And before something gets started that's going to contradict with that,
Yep.
we want to pause it to get our ducks in the row. And, you know, I've seen the comments from the people on Webster. Have you seen the comments on Facebook on the recent one? What do you think? They're active.
I love those comments because a lot of people share my sentiment of like, it's about time, because we really do need to redirect our course and make sure that going into the future, development in Webster becomes a lot more sustainable than it has been.
Yeah, so it was great to see the whole new board come together to get behind this.
Yep.
The town get behind this. And yeah, you know, because fingers crossed on the grant. When should we hear?
July or August is the projected date.
So maybe
where the
September,
grants-
you know, knowing
It
how
is a
things
state,
work.
Yes. But yes, so that would be wonderful news. I hope to be able to be standing in front of this camera again in July and August, sharing that news with you, because what a win for Webster that would be if we got this grant funding and we were able to preserve this and the other property.
All right, so we're talking about open space and the future of Webster and how it all comes together. And I think one of the things that I've learned is we balance all these different viewpoints, right? Between open space, growth, preservation, different uses, it's all going to come together. And it's ultimately decided by the town board.
Yep.
And that's where we've got another election this year, right? Town supervisor's up again. So we've been doing a special segment on Webster Now where we interview future candidates so you can hear directly from them what they think on key issues. And open space is one of them. All right, so Dana, as we think about what question ask the candidates to help Webster residents understand their views on open space, what do you think would be a good question we could ask them?
Well, I think you start very general and you just say, to what extent do you believe that open space preservation is a priority for Webster residents? And then as a follow-up question, depending upon your view on open space preservation as a priority, what are some practical initiatives that you would take as a supervisor to ensure that preservation was achieved.
I like it. I like it. And this is also a good idea. As we interview the candidates more, if you have questions for the candidates, submit them, and we'll see which ones we can get on the show and get the candidates to answer so you know what's going on in town. All right, Diana, before we wrap up today, any final words for the residents about open space preservation in Webster as we move to the future?
Yes, well, I just want to say that I think this is a really big year for open space preservation, and I'm really glad to see all of the public support behind the moratorium, as well as from people that I have spoken to, the public support for preservation of the Coons parcel in particular, and also the other parcel that we applied for the grant.
The Holt Road Lumberyard.
Yep. And I just think going forward, public engagement and public support and expressing support for preservation of green space is really important, because it does make a difference and it does move the initiatives forward, because this is what we're doing it for, you, the people of Webster.
Well, perfect. Well, Diana, thank you for stopping by. And now let's hear from our candidates. All right, folks, we're back with Sean Hanna, part of our interview series with the candidates running for Webster Town Supervisor this year. Sean, how's it been?
It's been going really well. How about you?
You know, it's springtime, so I thought we'd be outside the Arboretum.
And this is a fantastic site. Even on a day when it snows, this is still a really nice site.
I know, it's one of those things I always think I should come to more.
I know.
All right, so
Hopefully it's just around the corner for me, so I get to come here a lot.
Good. All right, Sean, today's question. To what extent do you think open space preservation should be a priority here in town?
I think it's a huge priority, because honestly, it's one of those things where if you let the opportunity get away from you, that is preserving the open space, you don't get a chance to get it back. You can make lots of errors in government, and government often does.
Yeah.
But most of those errors are correctable, even if there's some damage that's associated with them. Open space, letting it slip through your fingers, that is not correctable. Once it's gone, it is gone forever. And so I put it as a very high priority on the list of things that local government should be doing.
And that's true. Like, you're right. It's one of those things that you can't correct, because even if you clear cut 10 acres, you can say you're going to reforest it, but that is a very long-term solution.
It is, and there's damage that occurs in the interim, but more to the point, once you clear cut 10 acres, when they say it's reforested, usually that's a very small fraction of that. They plant trees here and there, but it's certainly not old growth like the stuff that was removed.
Correct.
And usually it's not restored in the same quantity.
All right, so Sean, since you're for open space preservation, what are some practical things that you would do in your role as town supervisor to help achieve those objectives?
Well, you know what? You know who becomes very important in all this is the farmers, the farming community that we have here in Webster. Okay. I go back a long way with a lot of them, and what you need to do is keep an open dialogue with them, because we want to encourage farming. It's a big part of our past, a big part of our culture. But at the same time, if a farmer or his family is deciding we want to exit this, we want to do something else, I'd like to have the town of Webster first in line. I want the town to be the first organization, the first group of people that the local farmers and other large landowners think of, so that we can acquire their property and preserve open space.
I mean, that's a good thought, because we've got a few left.
Yeah.
Now, you've been in Webster longer than I have, and
Yeah.
I remember being a kid in the early 80s. There was a lot of farmland. It's getting less and less. So at this point, too, it's not like there's half the town left. There's only a few limited key parcels that even fit that distinction.
There are, but there are still some. I mean,
Correct. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's still worth doing it, because there are still some to get in there with.
Yes, and so we need to maintain and strengthen our relationships with those farmers, and there are others too, not just farmers. There are people who own rather substantive tracts of land, and those are very important. They may not be 1,000 acres like you'll see on some of the bigger farms, but if they're 15, 20, 50 acres, they still create habitat for local wildlife. They still create real pockets of enjoyment for Webster citizens, and they're very important.
Now, with the town working with those landowners or with them, do you think the town should work in tandem with them or strong arm them a little bit? How do you see that relationship, in your mind, ideally being adversarial or
Not
friendly?
adversarial, no. There's nothing that bothers me more than a government trying to use its force to impose its will on a private citizen. That should never happen. No, this is about maintaining relationships, building them, and getting them to sell to the town voluntarily, almost excitedly, if there ever comes a time where they don't want to use their property anymore.
Perfect. All right, Sean, thank you for stopping by, and thank you, Webster residents, as always. All right, Webster, thank you for turning to our episode about open space here in Webster, what's going on. Now, I want to hear from you in the comments. Do you think Webster needs to preserve more open space, do more development, somewhere in the middle? Whatever it is, let us know what you think, because this is an important issue shaping Webster, and your voice shapes the community you live in. As we wrap up and we think to the future, remember, as always, every step we take is a step towards a better Webster.
You've been watching Webster Now with Garrett Wagner. Join us next time for more local news and updates.